Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VNture Podcast. It is a new week, and that means a new episode together with your hosts, me, Taros, and MR, as we venture into another discussion about visual novels. We're coming up at the end of the month, and so it is time for our monthly Readport of what visual novels we've been up to this past month. And so, MR, why don't you start and take it away? What have you been up to this past month?
Yeah, I've been reading some titles, but first thing first, I want to report on a title I've been reading for a while. So, Amatsutsumi. Oh, whoa, where do I begin with this one? First of all, I like it. Second of all, I did not touch it February. I have a lot of notes pertaining to the characters, routes, and most importantly, the main point of this title, the Kotodama, Words of Power. I want to decipher everything. I want to solve the mystery. But this month, I just didn't have the time to just sit down and just properly enjoy it. Like reserve a weekend or two to enjoy routes or maybe even finish it. I don't know if I'm halfway through. So ultimately, I wasn't also that motivated. I feel like when it comes to drama, Amatsutsumi had two chances for two routes, and it didn't really sold me on the drama part. The first had an amazing build-up but poor climax, and the second one was absolutely amazing climax. If you watched Anj's top 10 emotional moments, he goes pretty in-depth in that one. But the way they go into that one is like very stupid. So for now, Amatsutsumi is paused. I really want to sit down in March and progress it, but for now, I haven't touched it. So that's it from me. I guess hear you on March from Amatsutsumi. How about you?
No, yeah, I feel you. There's been some times it's just I haven't really had a solid block to give a title the respect and the time it deserves. But exactly. I am interested in how your opinion keeps flowing with Amatsutsumi over the months. That will be interesting to discuss when you finally finish. Very interesting. Yeah. That's actually a pretty good segue because I finished a visual novel this past month that I talked about last Readport for January, and that is 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. Well, I stuck with it the whole way through, and unfortunately, I don't really have anything to add from my impressions in the January report. It is a sci-fi mecha story revolving around 13 different main characters, as they all have their own very interesting experiences in this crazy world. However, a lot of my criticisms went unresolved. It is still kind of a mess. The story is disjointed in so many different aspects. The sci-fi aspect of the world building has sprawled out of control, where usually you have sci-fi and it's kind of focused on one aspect, like, it's kind of focused on specifically artificial intelligence, or what if gravity was reversed? There's one central hook to it. And in 13 Sentinels, you'd think it would be about alien invasions and mechas to fight them back, and then it just keeps piling more and more and more of the classic sci-fi aspects onto it, until I'm looking at this at the end like, holy crap, we've got like everything. And unfortunately, it just leaves it very disconnected. And the gameplay was still unimpressive. It got better over time, but as a strategy game, it was pretty lacking. All in all, it's, I don't know. I kind of wish I had those hours of my life back. I'm sure. Oh. No, and I mean, it sounds harsher than it really is. There are some people who would love 13 Sentinels if you're the kind of person who enjoys stories that feel like unraveling a ball of yarn, where you keep approaching it from different angles to pick out the strands and follow the plot threads. For me, I kind of prefer a story that's more like a roller coaster. It is pathed out ahead of time, and it has its dips and valleys. And that wasn't 13 Sentinels for me. Felt way too much like a mess.
Did it feel too much as like a homework you need to
Oh my
in
goodness.
order to appreciate.
It absolutely could have been homework. I will give it
Oh my
credit. It
God.
had a fantastic glossary where you could look up
Oh.
all the characters, all the terms, and it would update as you learned more information about each of those things in the main story.
Huh.
I will give
Okay.
huge points for its glossary. But overall, I'm kind of glad to put 13 Sentinels in the rear view mirror.
Well, it sucks, but not everything can be a winner to you, at least, right?
Hopefully, you're having a better track record than I have.
Yeah,
so
because speaking of winners, right?
Oh,
I've decided to try something new, and I remember you were talking about the letter. I've talked about Love Esquire from the developer Yang Mobile, and they released Saint Maker. So that was a new title from them, and I like Love Esquire. I feel like they do the Yang Mobile guys pretty nicely. Let's try it. This time it's horror. I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued. Let's see how it spooks me. Okay, I tend not to like horror, but I'll give them a chance. The idea is this: the main character, Holly, attends a religious recollection in a quite unnerving cloister. She is full of imagination and wanderlust. As it is quickly established as the head nun of the place confiscates her fantasy book about witches and fairies. Soon after, she finds out she's not the only person at the recollection, as there is another troubled soul here. Not necessarily her first choice of summer vacation, right? Together, they spend time in this place, but in the night, strange sounds are abound, whispers and spooky prayers are but the norm. Oh, and the creepy statues. We can't forget about creepy statues, right?
of course.
But I'll give one major props to them. Holy hell, they made a very immersive choice system. Because I felt like they played into the psychological horror angle in which every single choice you made weren't necessarily important, because there's a lot of them and I feel like not many splits, but it felt like main character was talking to herself. Like, holy hell, that was very atmospheric. And some of the choices, as you can imagine, didn't split. So you had opposing choices, whether or not should you tell the truth, should you lie? And if you pick a choice that doesn't fit the situation, she has to battle in her mind to not do the choice. Man, that was so good. I really like the choice system here. Holy hell.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so I wanted to ask you two questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
First is that you mentioned the choice is like written as if she's saying them out loud. Usually when you see choices in a visual novel, they're listed very frankly, like go to the door or escape through the window. And you're saying it's more like I should escape through the door?
More like she is questioning herself by saying, "You're a coward."
Oh, so the choices are more just her self-thoughts about herself?
Yes.
Oh, that's an interesting angle. Okay.
Yeah. You'll see where this is going, right?
Okay.
Really cool.
So I mean, the other thing is that when you select a choice and the main character doesn't do that, usually that's brought up as a huge negative in terms of visual novels, because it's like, well, then why'd you give me the choice if the story's going to take away that agency? But if these are the more opinionated kinds of things, where, like you said, where it's like, oh, I'm a coward, or I'm brave, I can do this, and then it just feeds into her psyche even more, that could be an interesting way to do it, where, that sort of rejection from the game feels acceptable, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to praise achievements of all things, right? But some of them really reflect when there was achievement 1 step forward, 2 steps back. When you wanted to change the character, you have a choice. You wanted okay, let's not lie this time. But she tries not to lie, but still she's coward enough that she falls back to lying. And achievement reflects that. Yeah, you as a reader tried to pick the choice, which is the braver one. You step up and you won't lie. But it's like, I tried, but this is so much safer. I always lied because it's so much safer to avoid confrontation, not be blunt. Yeah, like, this works. Oh, and obviously, yeah, you are correct with VNs. If you present a lot of fake choices and then take the agency away, like, then why did you litter that with fake choices, right? But the moment you introduce self-doubt, like, and psychological struggle, maybe, just maybe, this kinda has place here.
Very interesting. You mentioned the developers were Yang Yang Mobile. They did that one horror OELVN called The Letter. Did you read that, MR?
Nope.
Okay.
I did not.
Because I was actually going to say, The Letter is also a horror visual novel, but it's more of the scary monster chasing you, scary visuals kind of thing. And so you mentioned that this one is more of the psychological horror, and I was very interested to see what kind of different angles they take. How much of, all of the scary stuff is happening in Holly's head versus reality. Is that right?
Exactly. I don't want to spoil too much, because some of them might be connected with major plot twists, right? But yet, this is exactly it. You as reader and her as character, you are not sure to what degree things are happening for real, and to what degree she has a very, very big imagination. So it keeps you on your toes.
Okay. I also wanted to ask, what about the rest of the characters? You've talked a lot about Holly, but are there any other characters who really intrigue you so far?
In the entire title, there are 3 characters. That's the main focus. The head man that leads the recollection, Holly, the main character, and Gabriela, the other girl that went here. I don't want to spoil too much about how the trio develops, how they argue back and forth, how they sometimes are rebellious, sometimes they relent to the old nun. It's very intriguing, very cool. It is tied to what is happening, what's going on. So I just don't want to go into detail. I feel like if I were to pick my favorite character, it probably will be the main character, because she was exposed the most. And every single time the day ends, now the creepy stuff happens, because then you have some visions and something is happening in the closure. Then you go to sleep and you have dreams. And then you have another set of recollection that was happening in the past, which explains the drama that led to her going to this place. And you need to piece it all together, how it all fits. Like, this is a really nice puzzle to solve chronologically. I really like that.
Interesting. You keep whetting my appetite with how much you say, but I don't want to go too much into details. And I'm like, more.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's definitely not a title I read because it's quite short and it's horror. But you know what? I like that. Yeah, I am positively shocked. On the plot twist end, somehow, I would say there are 2 major plot twists. They are interconnected. I predicted one, but not the other, for some reason. So they really nicely misdirect you. So even if you try to follow the clues, there is a chance they will surprise you. I really like that.
Okay. Because, of course, you have to have a solid plot with anything horror related.
Exactly, yeah. And I felt like they did it justice. Okay. I really enjoyed reading that, and it was pretty solid for, I suppose it was 5 hours of reading? Yeah, I dig it.
Awesome. That's pretty cool to hear. It's also pretty cool to hear that Yang Yang Mobile is still doing great for themselves. I remember the letter was a huge hit, arguably one of the best OELVNs, or I guess a top 5 OELVN throughout all of its history, I'd say.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's good, especially for the time it was released. It has crazy production values. And from what I've seen of the screenshots so far, they still have their incredible art style as well.
Yes. Something that isn't quite captured is there's a lot of animation going on around in the background with the characters, with their mouth flaps. Really nicely done, I have to say.
Mm-hmm. And so
even
Yeah, go ahead.
Even something as small as you're in a very old building, right? And they tried to animate how moving around in such a place will make dust float around in the background. Because, it's quite old, dusty place. You change place and then sun shines through. And you can see fluttering about petals of flowers or something like that. Like, just small things they animated. It really adds up to the atmosphere, I have to say.
Ooh, okay. Overall, you have a pretty good impression of this game, huh?
Yes. Yeah, I will like that.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to go to the spoiler side. I don't want to add anything else. Please read it if you like it.
Okay, then I'll take over for you then, I suppose, Amar.
Yeah.
In my case, I've been up to reading titles as well. Lately, for the past several months, actually, I gotta say, I've been on a streak of disappointing visual novels. But I am finally reading something good on my hands. It's been a mainstay of my backlog, something I've been anxiously, looking forward to, hoping that it lives up to the hype on my end. And it has. Meteor World Actor has been pretty outstanding so far. The kind of visual novel that puts a dumb smile on my face while I'm reading it the whole way through. It is a detective story. The main character's name is Ruka. He's 29, but a veteran detective in his agency. He's a very interesting main character in the fact that he's pretty lazy. He's arrogant.
Okay.
He's foul-tempered. He seems to be good at his job, but it's hard to tell because he never bothers in the first place.
Okay.
And he's a detective mostly because of how easy it is to just sit on his ass and do nothing and get paid decent enough.
Okay.
He's quite a character. And it's a buddy cop story in the sense that there's a new rookie assigned to his little division, a girl by the name of Clarice. She's a rookie fresh out of the academy, and she's blindingly optimistic and eager to help, and still naive about the real world and how it works. And this main character, Ruka, gets partnered with Clarice to help train her. It's a very funny dynamic between the two of them. That's sort of the backbone of Meteor World Actor, as you get this gruff veteran trying to deal with all the energy and idealness out of this puppy dog rookie.
Oh my! This already screams like an amazing dynamic of having someone jaded by experience and someone who is just fresh out of school. Oh god.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a pretty classic premise.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out and say like, oh, this is the first time it's ever been done, but it's simple and it's effective. And part of what makes it so effective is that their characters are so, I don't want to say outlandish. They feel very authentic.
Okay.
Clarice is the rookie and sometimes gives the brightest optimism possible. And then other times there'll be like Ruka, where everyone's taunting him because of just how pathetic he is. And I'm sitting there grimacing at like, dude, when's the last time you've washed your clothes? I'm just like, oh, this guy's not living a good life. And then like in the next scene, he'll be talking to a witness for the murder case who is clearly suspicious. And he just drives all his words straight into him, just always one step ahead. And you're like, oh, damn, actually, yeah, you're a good detective. And then he goes right back to being pathetic. And it's like, God dang it, man.
Oh, God.
It's also very funny seeing Clarice's change of opinion of Ruka. She comes in and she's like, oh boy, I'm working with detectives, and then slowly realizes how much more and more pathetic the main guy is. But she's still holding on to her optimism.
Oh, man.
Like I said, Meteor World Actor has that pretty simple premise, but it really shines in the supporting details too. Because, for one thing, the world building is incredible. Yeah, that's right, MR. I praise the world building.
No.
There you go.
Oh, you know I have huge backlog, okay?
Meteor World Actor is modern day fantasy. It's full of various races. You've got humans, and then Clarice is an elf. There's fairies. There's other, stuff. They said Segets, who are extremely physically strong, but kind of dumb in the head. And so with all of these, fantasy races means that there's supernatural magic elements too. And this is in modern day fantasy, so a lot of the city and the police force and the bureaucracy is all pretty standard. It's just the sort of magic that pops in every once in a while to keep you on your toes, to just show you that there's new avenues for investigating these cases and all sorts of new methods that might have been used in the murder and it affecting the crime scene. And it's like I mentioned, it keeps you on your toes and you're always interested in what seemingly commonplace, buddy cop story suddenly has layers to the plot.
Magic is always dangerous in such a setting.
Although, but I'd like to mention, so far I'm still fairly early on in Meteor World Actor, but of course, the main aspect of magic, of this supernatural stuff, is in establishing the rules for it. And so far, I feel like I'm still in that phase. I'm still in that Act 1 of Meteor World Actor, where they're still explaining and, sometimes info dumping how the world works. And so far, it seems to be doing a decent job laying down the fundamentals, and hopefully we don't see anything later on that just shatters it all, or any sort of ass pull, So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, the moment you mentioned magic, I just remember when reading both VNs, light novels, when it comes to investigations and detectives, right? The one type of magic that breaks a lot of things apart is any kind of memory manipulation or mind reading. Then it's like very hard to keep up the fantasy. Again, this is when you mention magic exists. Maybe it isn't as advanced and has other limitations and such practice doesn't exist. Fine. Okay, problem solved. It was never a problem. I just remember a lot of titles deal with that kind of angle very carefully.
Yes, definitely. I think one thing going in Meteor World Actor's case is that even though it's a buddy cop story and they're trying to solve a crime, a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of this visual novel's enjoyment comes from the banter. The writing in Meteor World Actor is incredible. And honestly, some of the highlights in this are just watching the main character and his coworkers and this rookie just talking shit about each other. And insulting each other and bouncing back and occasionally getting serious about their work. And I think that is an incredible strength of the translation and of the original Japanese script.
Well, the way you describe it, right?
Yes.
The way you even emphasizes that aspect for being a highlight. Would it be fair for me to ask you, is that in like a Magikoi but detective version?
I don't know how similarly you can compare Magikoi and Meteor World Actor. Although they do share similarities where their characters really shine, and the banter and the writing are both incredible. So yes.
Yeah. From that angle of what you described, Magikoi, a group of friends that hang near each other all the time, right? And read on each other, right?
Yeah, Magikoi's greatest strength was its banter and writing, and so far, I'm hugely enjoying writing and banter in Meteor World Actor, too.
Okay, so that's the first thing that came to my mind. I heard Taurus describe something like that. Wait a second.
I wanted to elaborate more about what I feel like is the incredible translation. A lot of times when you have visual novel fans commenting on translations, most people mean what they see in English, like from screenshots or whatnot. Translation has two aspects. It's understanding the original Japanese script and then conveying that in the English text. Like the official Danganronpa 1 translation, it was apparently by someone who just barely understood Japanese, but could write, very well in English. And then you've got like Gaokao Love 100 Days, where the translator was probably a native Chinese speaker who could not put together an English sentence to save his life. So there's two aspects to it. And what I want to say is that on the English writing front, in Meteor World Actor, it's stellar. It completely fits the tone of a buddy cop genre from the point of view from the jaded, bitter veteran. Like you got this guy Ruka who has his internal monologue complaining of stuff and using profanity and mentally talking shit about his bosses and co-workers. It's got similes and metaphors you'd expect from like some sort of pulp fiction writing. There's a screenshot that's, I think I posted in the cycling screenshots in the background, where he thinks to himself, I ate like a hobo last night, but I'm still broke as fuck. It's like, that's the exact sort of tone that's unique to Meteor World Actor that you don't often see out of literally written other visual novels, fan-translated works. It has a character, it has its own voice, ever present all throughout the writing in Meteor World Actor. There's also the aspect of the Japanese meaning and how it's getting conveyed in the English script. I think one of the best examples is that there's one scene where the main character arrives with his little newbie in tow. They head over to a cafe where the main character is very familiar with the waitress there. There's a line in there where the waitress is asking, and hey, who's this new girl that you brought? And it's like, oh yeah, she's my trainee from work. And she's like, are you sure that's the whole story? And she slips in a reference to compensated dating. And that's a very, Asian term, and it's not really well known in the West, and especially not to every weeb out there, even though more probably know it than not. And so you're at a weird situation where, like, do you just literally use the term compensated dating? Do you add a little explanation about it or so? Which, you often see present in translation works. That's a common problem. And instead, the translation goes, I know men your age get lonely. And yes, that's
alluding to that. Okay.
Exactly. It's a great way to still convey the same meaning of what she's hinting at without getting bogged down into the details. And then, of course, the main character bites back at her. It's like, yeah. There's also been a few times when just the main character and other people are talking to each other. And there will be some times where what you hear them say is just a simple wakarimasu. And what you see in the English writing is instead, it varies. You know, one time that sticks out to me is like someone said, yeah, sure, whatever you say. Literally, that's not what wakarimasu means, but that absolutely fit the context in which they said it. And that kind of little influence, that little character nudge to be aware of the conversation and what they were talking about and connecting it to, you know, one line to another is really what helps this translation stand out. It's not just about the literal one-to-one dictionary definition, it's about, you know, knowing the scene and the characters and their outlooks on what's going on. And Media World Actor just handles just all of these examples effortlessly throughout the whole script so far. I am very much enjoying it. And I think, you know, a lot of times people want better, more faithful translations, and Media World Actor is knocking it out of the park. It deserves more praise, man.
Hey, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I added it to backlog, but truth be told, it's already there for some time. Oh,
your poor backlog is growing.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm. Someday. I know people have recommended me Meteor World Actor, and I'm just now getting to it years after its release.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When it comes to green, I have one also title I've been reading this month. Listen. Before we recorded this episode, you asked me, what led you to this title? So let me answer that. So what I read is Made to Love You.
Okay. You read... What? Amar, what drove you to pick up a visual novel called Made for Loving You?
Okay, so listen. Last month was crazy busy. Heck, days when I didn't have overtime at work, I work after it was over at home with all the renovations going on.
Oh no.
My door frame broke and I had to glue it together. Heck, one weekend I spent sewing in half my washing machine that exploded. I was so tired.
Man.
Even I was sickly last recording session, if you remember. So, okay. Enough is enough. I decided I needed a healing episode, okay? And this is where this VN comes in. It's pure, adorable cuteness overload. I needed that the doctor prescribed medicine, okay? So, to set the story, it's about an overworked protagonist who needs a break from the routine. One day in winter, on the way back from work, he finds out a passed-out girl near his home. He brings her inside, treats her cold, and treats her back to health. And then it is revealed she is a maid with nowhere else to go. And as repayment for saving her life, she wants to serve him as maid. It's such absurd, yet at the same time so comfy and quite funny too, as Protac immediately thinks it's a scam or prank story. I can't stop but giggle every few minutes. This is my cure, okay? It's a maid that is quite couderish, not fully emotionless. It's more like a professional courtesy, but we take those, okay? And as you remember, I tend to rate characters, especially designated waifus, by how they resonate with protagonists. And it just so happens that the maid is super stubborn in her mission of my job is to make master feel refreshed. Right? That's her mantra. She keeps repeating. And Protac is uncomfortable with some of the things she does, like when she prepares him meal and it's in the corner alone because, oh no, I couldn't possibly go near you, right, master, right? And he's like, yeah, but I would feel way more refreshed if you would join me to dinner. And the moment he started using her own logic against him, I knew it. This would be a blast to read. They
So
have such a funny chemistry.
Yes, so she's a maid, but she's also not just going to take any shit from the main character.
I mean, she has that professional aura about her, right? Everything has to be top notch, etc., etc. And my duty is for you to feel refreshed after work, blah blah blah, and feel comfortable. And he's like, yeah, but why are you so detached? Don't eat in the corner, join me. And she's like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. That would be blasphemous for a maid to join her master. And he's like, yeah, but I would feel so much more refreshed if you join me. And she's like, damn it, checkmate. Oh my god, this is so silly. I love this title so much. I needed that, okay?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know I'm ribbing you about it, but, like you said, it's another one of those visual novels where you have a dumb smile on your face the whole time you're reading it, right?
Exactly. Yep. Oh, it's so funny.
You know exactly what you're signing up for, and it delivers.
Freaking exactly, yep.
How long is it?
I haven't finished it. I'm like 2 or 3 hours in. I just couldn't take all the sweetness at once, okay? I need to portion it for a few days. I heard it's no longer than 5, maybe 6 hours from DNDB. So maybe I'm at half, maybe a bit before, something like that.
Oh, very nice, very nice. It's glad to hear you're enjoying it. And hopefully things go better in your life too, MR.
Yeah, hopefully. True. Oh my god. This title is just so silly. I just needed something that doesn't over dramatize everything like Amatsutsumi sometimes does, okay? I needed something simple, so please inject sugar this way.
Injecting sugar. Oh, that's a new one. Oh, I've never heard that before, but yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
Then on that note, it has been one heck of a month for us, hasn't it, MR? We've had our plates full with several visual novels.
True.
And so thank you everyone for listening along to our Readport of what we've been reading the past month. I hope you all enjoy. I hope you all have learned a lot more about the titles we've read as well.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening in, and VNture out.
VNture out.